Minister.
Thank you very much, Sir David Amos, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And I congratulate the member for Carshalton and Wallington for his leadership on this very important debate, e-petition 323442. Over 300,000 people signing the petition, and of course 641 in his own constituency. And I'm grateful for the member for Strangford for that very moving speech. And I'm deeply saddened by the loss of his mother-in-law and, of course, the infection of his wife and other members, his family and friends as well. He really did, as the Shadow Minister quite rightly pointed out, brought it home that each and every statistic is a person with a family, people they love, and people that love them very much. And I will hopefully address the excellent speech made by, as always, the member for Wickham in my remarks. And I'm grateful to the member for North Ayrshire and Arran, both in her excellent speech and her very clear confirmation that neither the Scottish Government or the United Kingdom Government will mandate vaccination at all. And also, just to congratulate her Chief Medical Officer, as well as the Chief Medical Officer in Northern Ireland and in Wales, who've worked together so that we could all vaccinate on the same day last Tuesday. I'm grateful, Sir David, for the opportunity, obviously, to speak this evening on behalf of the government. I hear you by a few minutes after what has been a most important week last week in the United Kingdom. The week began, we began vaccinating people, obviously, against Covid-19, and I hope has started to turn the tide on this virus. The pandemic has forced this government and our devolved administration across the United Kingdom to take steps that are truly unprecedented in peacetime, Sir David. They are steps that no democratic government would wish to take unless they were absolutely necessary. At each point in the pandemic, every decision we have taken has been with the utmost consideration for its impact on our personal freedoms. As honourable colleagues, honourable members have so brilliantly highlighted this evening in these exchanges, the petition we are debating this evening is a matter of great legal and ethical, as the member for Wickham quite rightly reminded us, complexity. But before I address some of those complexities, I wish to set out the facts as they stand today, Sir David. First, there are currently no plans to place restrictions on those who refuse to have a COVID vaccine at all. Further, as we have, as the member for Carshalton and Walton reminded us, no plans to introduce so-called vaccine passporting. I think the member for High Wycombe quite rightly was slightly nervous. I did my first interview, I think it was with the BBC, where they were asking me about some of the challenges. I talked about some of the technological challenges around this, and I may have misspoken. I was grateful to the Spectator and the Talk Radio, who allowed me to then explain myself. I think mandating vaccinations is discriminatory and completely wrong, and I, like the member for High Wycombe and others here, would urge businesses listening to this debate today not to even think about this, and I will explain in further detail why that is the wrong thing to do. I'm grateful, and I'll put on record my thanks to Professor Carol Sikora, who quoted me and said I eloquently dealt with the issue. He has many hundreds of thousands of followers, which I was very grateful for. So absolutely no plans for vaccine passporting. Second, cards have also been mentioned on social media that were being issued after people got their first COVID-19 vaccination, contain, amongst other details, the date of their second vaccination. This record, however, does not constitute a so-called vaccine passport. It does not mean you are immune. It's worth reminding people of that. And as we know, the vaccine is given as 2 injections, 21 days apart. The second dose is the booster dose, and I'm sure honourable members will forgive me for repeating this message again this evening. Patients must return as instructed for their second dose. Without the second dose, the vaccine will not be effective. It's a really important message that we send out from tonight. And I'm grateful to all honourable members who are repeating this important message to their constituents. Third, Sir David, on completion of both vaccinations, patients will be issued with a vaccine record card, much as they are for other vaccination programmes, so nothing different at all in the way we are dealing with this vaccine. Again, this does not constitute a so-called vaccine passport, neither can it be used as a form of identification. That would absolutely be wrong. Colleagues will appreciate that the careful and accurate recording of vaccination status is an important part of our public health efforts. It supports patient safety during the largest, most challenging vaccination programme probably in British history. And fourth, in addressing many of those who have signed the petition we are debating this evening, I want to underline one key fact. And we've heard it over and over again from honourable members: vaccines work. It's really important that we send that message from this place. After clean water, they are the single greatest public health tool in the history of mankind. And the member for Carshalton Wallington reminded us of Edward Jenner, and it really does fill me with great joy that the Jenner Institute was one of the first to stand up to say, we can do this. And I hope, after rigorous study by the MHRA, that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine will be in place as soon as that approval comes through. Obviously, it is up to the regulator to deliver that. Vaccines have, as we've heard tonight, have ended untold suffering for millions, if not billions, of people around the world. And when your turn comes, and your GP gets in touch, we all have a duty to heed that call. It is how we will be able to protect ourselves, Sir David, and the people around us, our friends and family, the people we love. Months of trials involving thousands of people have shown that vaccines we are using are effective. They work. In answer to the member for Carshalton and Wallington, the vaccines have been tested on between 15,000 and 50,000 people. There were no shortcuts, no sort of quick fixes by the MHRA. They followed exactly the same thing. The difference is, instead of doing phase 1, waiting for that, then doing phase 2, waiting for that, and then doing phase 3, they paralleled the studies, hence why we have been able to so rapidly develop these vaccines. And fifth, and equally important, each COVID vaccine will only be authorised, as I've repeated, once it has met robust standards of effectiveness, safety and quality. And vaccines authorised by our independent regulator, the MHRA, will be assessed, obviously, for, as we've heard tonight, clinical safety effectiveness through a robust review. The vaccine is free to everyone eligible across the UK. There is really no excuse not to take it when your turn comes. And sixth, while we know the vaccine protects individuals, we don't yet know precisely its impact on onwards transmission. The brilliant point made by the member for Wickham, as he himself said and quoted the Secretary of State, and in answer to the Shadow Minister in terms of, where is that point? We don't know yet until we really scale up the vaccinations. We will continue to monitor, obviously, through the test and trace system to see what impact it has on transmission. What we do know, as the member for Wickham reminded us, is that it does protect you. And that's the important thing, which is why I absolutely encourage everyone to read and read and read again, or ask and ask and ask again, if I quote the Shadow Minister opposite. And the full impact on infection rates will not become clear until, as I say, until we get to those large numbers. So we're monitoring that very carefully. But colleagues will understand that without knowing this, it would be irresponsible for anyone to declare or self-declare that they are immune. Hence why the Qantas question is really completely wrong, because it's impossible for anyone to say that this science does not yet support that conclusion. So even if you are vaccinated, people must continue to follow the rules where they are and keep taking those common sense steps that are now so familiar to us, of washing your hands, covering our face and making space. The many questions, and colleagues have raised this around the WHO, I think, require international responses. The United Kingdom government has led the way, and I think we could do even more next year as the UK takes up its presidency of the G7. As the Shadow Minister mentioned, the anti-vaxxers are an issue that not only do we need to deal with nationally, but also internationally. So we look forward to working with many nations on this challenge. I just want to very briefly turn to some of the questions that the Honourable Member put to me on GPs and the issue of the additional 15 minutes. That was the further guidelines from the MHRA after the two cases who had a history of severe allergy and had an allergic reaction to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, hence why the change to the process. The rollout today into primary care networks, and to his very good question on caseloads. So what GPs have done so brilliantly is come together in primary care networks. And so if you have an area of about 50,000 people and you have 5 practices, they've come together and agreed that one would lead on the vaccination, whilst the other 4 would continue to support the community and, of course, deal with caseloads. His question on care home staff, they continue to be prioritised. Very happy if he has a particular case or details to take that offline with him. So, David, just in closing, honourable members, the petition we are debating tonight is of profound importance. I urge anyone who's considering refusing a COVID-19 vaccination to ask and ask and ask again. Not only is the vaccine effective and proven to be clinically safe, but the quicker we are able to vaccinate people, the quicker we can bring forward the date when we can begin to lift these oppressive restrictions that have been put in place with a truly heavy heart. I came from a world of entrepreneurialism, of unleashing people's ingenuity and energy and passion. I didn't enter politics to restrict people's freedoms. And that is something I profoundly believe we all want to see happen. But until then, we all have our part to play. We must continue to respect the rules to ensure these efforts are successful, so their success can be our shared success, David. And we can all have a more joyous 2021. If I do my job properly, Sir David, then we will all hopefully be back in this chamber, or celebrating, I hope, without the restrictions that we have today. Thank you very much indeed.
Elliot Cole.